In the case of Ghana, higher oil export receipts has helped to buoy stability within currency markets. And at the same time, the government is trying to adopt prudent fiscal policy, which is helping to support the currency environment as well. But we still expect modest weakening because Ghana is also, as Nigeria, a major import-dependent country. And as long as import continues to be very high, that will continue to provide downward pressure on the currency. Kenya, it's broadly stable. We saw that last year, despite the political upset in the markets, the currency did not weaken as sharply as we had anticipated. So we expect that broad stability to continue with the currency ranging around the 103, 104 range this year. And in terms of Cote d'Ivoire, well, the currency continues to mirror developments in the Eurozone. We're currently seeing a strengthening of the euro against the USD, and that's likely to continue over the course of this year because there's improving economic prospects in the Eurozone. Growth prospects have picked up. The economy has been, the region has actually been recording the upward trajectory in real GDP growth since in the past 4 quarters. Core inflation remains low and it remains below the targets. And then at the same time, the ECB, which is the European Central Bank, is looking towards adopting a more hawkish stance going forward. So these factors will continue to support the euro, which in turn will support the ZOFZAF.
Now, Angola started this year by removing the peg on its currency against the dollar. Is this a step other African countries should take in the new year?
Well, for Angola, it's a different story. It's a major oil, like Nigeria, is a major oil dependent country. And at the same time, the policies not conducive to withstand the commodity price shock. So it had no choice but to devalue the currency. Whereas if you look at Nigeria, they introduced, if Nigeria had not introduced the RNE window last year, perhaps they would have been going down that same route. But in terms of Angola, the policies were not sound enough to withstand the shock. And so they had no choice but to devalue the currency. And the foreign exchange reserves had been dwindling sharply. Currently, if you look at normal trends in terms of import cover, the foreign exchange reserves accounts to about three to four months of imports, which for a large economy like Angola, it's not very conducive compared with Nigeria, where the import cover is about 10 months. So I think for certain countries we might see that, but I don't think we're seeing a new trend at the moment in terms of devaluation of most currencies, especially given that commodity prices are now picking up.
All right, looking into 2018, what are the expected shocks to some of these currencies?
I think from the domestic side, I think it could be elections. We've got about 15 countries going to hold elections this year. Sierra Leone is one of them, potentially the DRC in December, South Sudan, Guinea. So on the domestic front, I think those experiences might lead to further weakening of the currency. And then if at all we should see another price shock or perhaps another downturn in the commodity price markets, which we don't expect, but it's likely it could happen. But I think it's more on the domestic front. So if governments can actually accelerate their reform process and try to diversify their export markets and lean more on improving their fundamentals to attract foreign funds, then it should help to support their currencies.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Gaimin. Gaimin Nonyane is the head of economic research at EcoBank Group in London. Moving now, Nigeria expects to raise $700 million from international sources as part of a $3.5 billion in borrowing earmarked in the 2017 spending plan. The DMO gave no details of which sources the government could tap, but the Director General, Patience Oneha, said in October the country is talking to the World Bank about concessionary loans. The government raised $2.8 billion in the international market last year, selling $2.5 billion in the Eurobonds in November and another $300 million via diaspora bonds earlier. The debt office said the country raised 1.254 trillion naira from the domestic debt market last year and released around the same amount for capital projects over 6 months due to delays in implementing the budget. The DMO expects more capital release as the 2017 budget is still being implemented. And Côte d'Ivoire aims to raise 1,310.7 billion CFA francs, that's about $2.35 billion in bonds on the regional CFA franc market in 2018. The sum will be an increase on the 1,296.8 billion CFA francs collected last year and will go towards financing the budget. The country will raise 325 billion CFA francs in the first quarter, including a 35 billion CFA franc bond launched on Tuesday. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll look at the latest SMI data from the World Economics. To stay with us.